Have you ever heard autism level 1 and thought, oh, that's just quirky, like mild autism? That's not a big deal. Hi, I'm Dr. James Thatcher. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I work at Forest Psychological Clinic in Portland, Oregon, and I have done thousands of comprehensive autism assessments. In this video, I'm going to explain what level 1 autism actually means, why the word mild is misleading for a lot of people, and what support really looks like. Whether you're a parent watching this video for your child or teen, or whether you're an adult that's saying to yourself, wait, that might be me. So first, let's go over what level 1 autism actually means. First, level 1 is not a personality type, and it's not barely autistic, and it's not, oh, that's the quirky type. Level 1 autism is a support needs category. Historically, in the DSM-IV era, which was not that long ago, that was back in 2013 is when we switched over, autism was split up into different categories. A lot of people may remember the term Asperger syndrome. In the DSM-V, a lot of those terms got pulled into one umbrella, being called Autism Spectrum Disorder. And it's at this point that clinicians started using level 1, 2, and 3 to describe someone's support needs. So level 1 autism means requiring support, not requiring no support at all, not, oh, they're just fine. It means without support, the costs show up, sometimes quietly, sometimes later, but they show up. And here's a line I want you to remember. Mild does not mean easy. So here's the real life consequence that I see when kids just get brushed off as, oh, well, they're just quirky. They get missed. They don't get the support they need. And the long-term costs of that can be anxiety, depression, and even burnout. A lot of kids who fit the level 1 criteria of autism tend to do fine at school. And teachers will think, oh, they're doing well academically, they're fitting in just fine, they're a little quiet, a little quirky, right? They're doing just fine. But what teachers don't always see is what's happening in the hallway, in the playground, online, or inside their friend groups. A kid can be left out, bullied, ostracized in ways that teachers don't always pick up on. And kids often don't have the words to explain that yet. But they know, like, "Hey, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right." And then kids hit junior high. And that's when social situations tend to get more complex. Kids tend to click up, form groups. Social hierarchy becomes sharper. Social currency tends to matter more. And the unwritten rules, they become the whole game. So a kid can do okay in elementary school, but then they start struggling emotionally come middle school or junior high. Not because they got worse, but because the environment that they're in got more complex. And if that sort of dynamic keeps going to where they don't have words to explain what's going on, well, then the internal system that they start to develop, the things that they start to tell themselves is something's wrong with me. I don't fit in. I'm an alien. And that can translate into adulthood too, because what you're telling yourself, the perception about yourself, starts at a young age. And you can carry that forward throughout life, into relationships, into the workplace. And when I think about that, it's sad because when someone understands themselves, their strengths, their sensory profile, their social battery, and they're given the tools, well, their story can start to change. It's where they can start to tell themselves, I'm not broken, I'm different, and here's a plan that I have. People may use the phrase mild autism because they're trying to communicate something. They're usually trying to communicate, I can function, but it's going to cost me. And that's the key word, cost. So where from the outside, someone with level 1 autism may look fine, but the costs show up in other places. And for parents, it might look like your child is doing fine at school, but then when they get home, they just fall apart. And for adults, you might look competent, but privately, You're constantly rehearsing, recovering, and compensating. So here's the main takeaway from this. Level 1 autism doesn't mean no impact. It often means hidden impact. So now let's go over what level 1 autism can look like. And I want to preface all of this with when you meet one autistic person, you just met one autistic person. Everyone's different. Everyone presents differently. But common patterns you may see is social communication. I can talk, but communication is going to be work. Often the struggle in level 1 autism is the social pragmatic communication. So the back and forth conversations, the timing, reading into meaning, picking up on the social cues. So the adult version could look like you can socialize, but your battery drains pretty fast. And with the parent version, your kids can hold it together all day at school, but then when they get home, they crash. Another one is routine and rigidity. Predictability helps the nervous system. Sometimes routine is anxiety driven, but it's also often rules help me make sense of the world. So when rules change, it might not look dramatic, but it could look like the person is more irritable, shutting down, withdrawing, or maybe even having some anxiety about that situation. Another way level 1 autism can show up is sensory differences, to where they might be able to tolerate some sensory difficulties, but it's going to cost them. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about lights, smells, textures, crowds, and a lot of people underestimate this. Someone can get through a meeting or school or the grocery store, but then be wiped out afterwards. Again, we're talking about the cost of doing these things. I don't know if you've noticed, but I wear some pretty thick glasses. I don't know if you can see this or not, but they're pretty darn thick glasses. And without them, I can't drive. Like I'm legally blind. It would be dangerous if I got behind a wheel. And I remember when I was in first grade, I would have to go all the way up to the board to look at what was written because I didn't have a prescription for glasses just yet. And I don't know what it was about my first grade teacher, but she did not care for me. She thought, oh, James is just playing games. He doesn't really need to walk all the way up there. And you know what? I don't know if she's listening or not. And it's been, what, 30 plus years? I'll call her out. Miss Vodnansky, you were wrong. I do need glasses. Very much so. And I needed them back then too. So my point is, I needed support so I could access what everybody else in the class already had access to. These glasses are not a reward, they're access. And a lot of level 1 support is just like that, to where it's not special treatment, it's access. So let me give you an example on why all of this matters. I evaluated a kid that was struggling, right? He had difficulty socializing with other kids. He was impulsive. He wasn't able to read social cues. And a lot of kids like that can often get labeled as too much, when what they need is maybe some skills and some support. And once he was evaluated and had the diagnosis and was able to get that support, we didn't just say, like, hey, just go out and be social. What we did in therapy is we practiced some different things, right? We practiced what a reciprocal conversation looks like. We practiced how to initiate a conversation. We talked about the different ways on how to pick up on common social cues, how to notice, how to share, how to be more flexible. And we also worked on some executive functioning as well. It's where, how to slow down, how to make a schedule, how to organize things. And here's the important part. These changes don't happen overnight. They happen a little bit at a time. And with this particular case, and I've seen this happen numerous times, to where at some point in therapy, the parent kind of just takes a moment and looks back and thinks to themselves, and then, eventually shares with me, oh my God, things are so much different than what they were 6 months ago. Their friendships have improved. Their anxiety has gone down. Their school performance is better. That's what I mean when I say level 1 still needs support. Not because the person can't succeed, but because that support prevents that long-term cost. So now what do you do with this information? Well, if you're a parent or if you're a teacher, start watching. What's going on in the hallway? What's going on at lunch? What's going on online? What's going on in their friend groups? Your kid might be doing well academically, but that doesn't always translate that they're doing well socially. And try to build recovery time into their week like it matters, because it does matter. And if you're an adult watching this, what should you do now? Well, treat your social battery like it's a resource. I also want you to keep in mind that sensory accommodations aren't a weakness, it's a strategy to prevent that long term cost. And the goal of all of this isn't to act normal, it's to make life more workable. So if this video gave you the language of what you're seeing or what you're living, that's real. So if you've ever been told that you're just quirky or feeling like you don't fit in, that doesn't mean that you're broken. It might mean that you've been compensating without a roadmap. If you want, leave a comment on what hit you most about this video. Was it the social battery, sensory overload, the routines, or the hidden costs? And if you're in Oregon, especially around Portland, if you're interested in learning more about evaluations or the supports that we can offer, please check us out at forestpsychologicalclinic.com. All right, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. It's right over here. Bye.